Welcome, Warrior Sages, Warrior Sage family. I have a very close friend, ally, a mentee of mine for a few years, an extraordinary business leader on many dimensions of being a man of great heart, a family man, a man who cares about the world, and also is an exemplary leader to your 200 plus teammates. So this is my friend, my ally, my colleague, Yen Young. Welcome, Yen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So to start off, Yen, um, your claim to fame, you have many claims to fame, but the one that I like to start off with is your Shark Tank experience. There's a very famous episode of Shark Tank can you share a little bit about that? And then we'll dive into who you are, okay?
Sure, yeah. Uh, that was my second business venture, and that was with my brother. And we created a sushi franchise called How Do You Roll? And think of it as like a Chipotle or Subway, but sushi rolls. So you can kind of pick your ingredients and go down the line, and you would have as kind of a fast casual concept. And so we started that business. We had some success, and then Shark Tank, the show, found us online and asked us to be on the show. And originally, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be on TV. So I told them no, and later on they kept persisting, and my marketing director at that time said, "Hey, they're on the phone, they want to talk to you, they want you on the show." And I was like, "Look, I don't want to be on TV, I don't want to do it, but okay, fine, whatever." So I get on the phone, and they're talking. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then they got to this point where they said, "And we have 5 million viewers." I said, "I'm sorry, did you say 5 million viewers?" And they said, "Yeah, we have 5 million viewers." And I said, "God, I can't pass up that kind of exposure, right?" And so we got on the show, and we ended up striking the largest deal ever on Shark Tank history, which
Wow.
was $1 million, yeah, for Mr. Wonderful. And
For Mr. Wonderful of all people, right? The most
fellow
gifted.
Canadian, right?
Yes, yes.
And so that kind of then blew up our business, and we had a successful exit a few years after that.
Fantastic, fantastic, brother. So now you're the CEO of Casoro Group,
That's
and
correct.
you've been at that for about 2 years now.
As CEO, 2 years. I've been with the organization for 6 years now.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and history in terms of business and where you came from? And I'd love to just know a little bit about your background in business and who you are as an individual.
Oh, thanks. So really, my business exposure started as a child. So my parents were immigrants coming from China. Brought us over here when I was about a year old. So very, very, very young. And they were worker bees for a long time, and then eventually moved us from New York to Houston. And my dad ended up having an opportunity to buy a restaurant, a little tiny little place, buy a restaurant, owner financed, right? He had no capital, and really that was the first exposure to business for me. And I was only 10 or 11 at the time. I had worked with them, but only as a worker. And then my dad ended up owning the restaurant that he worked at. Because the gentleman who owned it previously was getting elderly, and there was nobody to succeed, so he sold it to my dad.
Wow.
And that was our first foray into business as a family. And obviously, in order to to make ends meet, they used child labor, which was my son. So at
I
a very young
understand
age,
that one. I understand that one. That's
yeah.
actually a wonderful parallel because I too, my parents got a restaurant for the first time at the same age.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, so very parallel history in there.
Yeah. So that was my first foray into business, right? Watching my parents do it. And to
Yes.
me, it was still, something that was like, I hated it because I had to, pick up tables and take out the trash and, peel shrimp and, that sort of stuff. But really, that was understanding and hearing them talk about, cash flow issues, paying inventory, right? Controlling inventory. How do we generate more sales through marketing and advertising? that was like the first foray into it. And then as I got older, I got more and more in depth with business with them. And so over the course of their history, they end up owning 4 or 5 restaurants, and so that gave me the exposure to actually be manager at some of them, wait tables at some of them, and so by that time, by the time I was 17, 18, I had kind of understood how business worked in general, right? Legal aspects, tax aspects, those sorts of things. So then I went to University of Texas, got a business degree because I wanted to continue with business. And I chose finance as a major only because that was the thing that I knew the least, right? I
Yes.
felt like I had the weakest understanding of finance and really just enjoyed it, really just enjoyed it. And so I think that background is what I think of every business as a financial thing now, right? Like everything is numbers to me when I think about business, and so that's the foundation of physically working it, growing up, adding the academics with that, and
Yes.
then going out and mirroring the two, and doing business itself. And so over the course of time, I've gone through, 5 different businesses now. They weren't all successful because you can't make them all work. But, over that course of time, that's kind of what I live and breathe. I don't even think about anything other than it's a business, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
So Yen, what I wanted to ask you is that your team loves you. I have the wonderful
I'm
opportunity to be
glad.
able to coach you, to coach your executive team. We've actually worked with the whole team, everyone from the top all the way down to the people like sweeping the floors. All right. Can you share with us your philosophy on leadership, your philosophy on becoming a conscious and what I call a transcendent leader? I'd love to hear your experience of that and your journey of that, please.
Yeah, and I love the idea of what leadership is. And so philosophically, when I think about leadership, my thoughts quickly go to leadership is very different than management. And so I'm a believer of you manage systems, you manage things, but you lead people, right? So that's the split is inanimate things versus live people. And leadership is about people. And it's all about moving people and being able to help somebody go from point A to point B that they otherwise cannot do themselves, right? Because if they could do it themselves, they don't necessarily need you, right? So leadership is about helping people that say, "Hey, I want to go from here to here," and you help them figure out how to get from A to B. And that's really leadership itself, right? Now, in order to do that though, you have to start with the one word, which is care. If you don't care about people, then you shouldn't be a leader, right? Yeah, so you have to care about people, and it's about helping people open themselves up, and not in a way that's dictatorial, right? Where you're not being a dictator, but rather help them accomplish what they want to accomplish. And when you get people to move that and to be able to do that, then you're really able to become a leader. Now, the other part of that is a lot of times people also need somebody that has a vision, right? So they want to move from point A to point B, but they don't even know where point B is sometimes. And
Yes.
as a leader, you have to help create that. Where is point B and why is point B a good place for them to go to? And that's being able to create the vision, cast that vision, and have everybody moving and believing in that vision, right? And have a purpose and a reason for being.
It's so valuable to not just drive people and see them as units of resource. We have this term called human resources, which in a way, I don't like that term only because the term, it makes people into material objects in a way, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
from. I can understand we can reframe it in a more conscious way, but that's where that term came from. Um, when you're looking at people, when I know your company goes through a very extensive hiring,
Mm.
what do you look for? I would love to know your philosophy of what do you look for in teams, because you've got an extraordinary team.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I love the people that we have. So when we think about hiring process, It really, first off, our hiring process is long. It's like a four interview process. And so it's pretty tedious. Most people are like, oh my God, there's yet another interview. But it's long. And the reason we do that is we're trying to figure out, really, if we look at it on an X versus Y axis, we're looking at fit, which is cultural fit and values fit. And then we're looking at ability and performance potential.
Mm.
So we look at it on this axis, and obviously what we're looking for is people that are far up to the top right, right? Where they fit our culture, they fit our philosophies, right? And they believe in our value system. And we share that with them, right? In the interview, very early on. And we actually talk to them about what does it mean to them when they hear those words. And then we also measure them on performance ability, right? Their technical skills, their ability to handle the job. But in all cases, what you're trying to avoid is that you have somebody that maybe looks very good on paper, maybe even performs very well and can perform very well, but don't believe in your value system, your culture, and your philosophies. It doesn't work, right? You got to get those people out of your organization. You really do. Now, what happens if you hire somebody and they have the cultural fit, the value system, and the philosophy side, but they don't have the performance side? Well, those people we can at least coach. We can teach them to increase their performance, right? And so that makes our job a lot easier as leaders to know that that's what we're trying to do, right? Get people to believe in your culture, your philosophy, your value systems, and then worry about helping them perform, right? But without that baseline of culture, value system, philosophy, the performance is irrelevant, right? Or performance is irrelevant.
Yeah, it'll be a mismatch, and sooner or later, if they're not in congruency with their values and philosophy, it'll be like a wrench thrown in a moving wheel. You know, it always stops things on an energy level. One of the things I've discovered is the essence of running businesses, no matter small, large, doesn't matter what size. The essence of it, as you've said, is human dynamics, the relationship between the humans, who's doing what and how, and where are we coming from. I'd love you to share more about what you consider are valuable values. You talked about values, philosophies. How do you hold those, and how do you share those and have people come into alignment with those values and philosophies?
Yeah. So first,
And
first
then
you have to know.
perhaps even share what they are, even. That'd be great, you know?
Sure. Yeah. First off, you have to know who you are, right? And whether or not the value systems that you come up with truly reflect who you are as a person, right? Now, in our company, we have core values that we live by, right? So they're everything from growth oriented, right? We want people who are growth oriented. We want people that when they speak to inspire. They're always being bold and reaching for for greater and stronger goals. They're teachable people, right? People who are willing to learn, and then they're exceptional, right? So we're looking for people who are looking for exceptional, right, things, right? And so that's the foundation, our core value system that we have within the company. That then is also paired with our vision as a company, right, for what we do. And obviously, a lot of that came from the work we did together, Satyen, which is we believe in creating better homes so that people can have better lives, right? Now, we're in the real estate business, so that kind of fits. But the reality is that we're thinking about the home unit. So what can we do to make people have better home lives? Because if their home lives are strong, we feel like that then personally, they then can have better lives, which then fits into our core values, right? They can
Yes,
then learn and be bold and be teachable and speak to inspire. They can do all those things, right? And we've made the world better that way, right?
yes.
So that's the underlining philosophy and visions that we start off with, right?
Beautiful.
So how do we get the company and everybody to believe in that and work towards that? The reality is that we start that from the very beginning. So before they even can come into our organization, we want to see if they even fit those values right up front, right?
Yes.
So one of our interview steps is actually called the values interview. And so for an hour to 2 hours, we will sit there and we will talk to them about values. We're not talking about can you perform the job and what the office setting looks like, all that stuff. We're just sitting there talking about who are you as a person, right? Tell me things that are important to you, right? What are the things in your life that stick out, right? If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it, right? Those are the types of questions that we will ask to understand somebody at a very fundamental level. And then we share our value system and say, hey, what do you think? And what does that mean to you, right? So the challenge is this: you cannot have core values. They don't mean anything if you don't live them and actually model them.
Yes.
You try to teach
You
core
have to
values.
be a living demonstration of what you
Yes,
believe in, or
that's
else
right.
people
You have
won't
to
trust you.
model your own core values, right?
Yes.
So you can sit there and say, "Oh, these are our values. These are our values," and look, they're posted all over the company, right? They're on posters and all this stuff. But the moment you don't live them is the moment those values disappear and they don't mean anything. So we spend a lot of energy talking about, hey, when we do this, that represents this value, right? Okay, I just did this, and hey, so and so just did this, and that represents this value in our system. And that's how we start living and breathing those value systems, to the point where people call each other out and say, man, so and so's great, man. They were bold, right? They were be bold, and they were bold, and they did this. And we actually start sharing stories around who's doing and living those core values. And that's how you make that become a part of who you are, versus some words you made up that nobody can remember.
So rather than a mission statement or value statement.
Yeah. Oh, I think we froze. All right, I think Satyen froze. Hey, Satyen. Hey, we froze. Oh no, windstorm knocked out the power. Okay, I think I'm still on Facebook Live right now, and it's still recording. Yeah. Do you want me to pause it, or do you want to jump back in? Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right. Oh, good. Okay, I'll just join back on. All right, thanks. All right, so Satyen got knocked out by a windstorm, so I'm hoping that he gets back on. So we're still on Facebook Live. I can see myself on Facebook. So for all of you guys who are joining us, we're hoping that Satyen can get his internet back up from the storm and join us back on. Otherwise, we'll have to regroup. Oh, he's calling me. Hang on. Hey, Satyen. It's not working? Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. All right, well, I'm gonna end this call then. I'm gonna end this Zoom call then.